Welcome to the listening, or shall I say the reading circle microphones, Dr. Wade W. Nobles. Dr. Wade W. Nobles is the son of Annie Mae Cotton, 1914 is when Annie Mae was born, and John Nobles, 1900. John Nobles' father was Mims Noble, who was born into the barbarism of American slavery in 1863. See, this is the connections. I love the way this is written. Mims's father was Wade Nobles, who was born into the savagery of slavery in 1836. Wade Nobles was the oldest son of Candace, Cilla, who was also born into captivity in Edgefield, South Carolina in 1810. Dr. Nobles is the namesake of his great-grandfather, Agnes's oldest son. His mother and father named him Wade, which means one who is able to tread through difficult matter like slavery, mud, snow, or ignorance. Dr. Nobles is a co-founding member and past president, 1994-1995, of the Association of Black Psychologists and Professor Emeritus in Africana Studies and Black Psychology, past Department Chair 1997 to 1999 at San Francisco State University. He is the founding executive director, retired, of the Institute for the Advanced Study of Black Family Life and Culture, established in 1968 in Oakland, where he spent over 40 years researching, documenting, publishing, designing, and implementing African-centered service and training programs. Dr. Nobles has studied classical African philosophy, Kemet, Tiwa, and Nubian, and traditional African wisdom traditions, Akan, Yoruba, Bantu, Wolof, Dogon, Fon, Lebou, etc., as the grounding for the development of an authentic black psychology. His professional career and life's work has been no less than a formal engagement in the ongoing theoretical development and programmatic application of African black psychology. African-centered thought and cultural grounding to address the liberation and restoration of the African mind and worldwide development of African people. He has conducted 80 nationally funded community-based research training and development projects. Dr. Nobles was initiated into the IFA spiritual system of Nigeria in 1992 and named Ifágbemì Sàngódáre, an internationally recognized Pan Africanist. Dr. Nobles is the author of over 100 articles, chapters, research reports, and books. The co-author of the seminal article in Black Psychology, Voodoo or IQ, an introduction to African psychology, author of African Psychology Toward Its Reclamation, Reascension and Revitalization, seeking the Saku foundational writings in African psychology, an anthology of over 30 years of African-centered research and scholarship. The Island of Memes, Haiti's unfinished revolution, described by Dr. Theophile Obenga as perhaps the most important book of the last 5 decades, and his recent contribution, SKH, From Black Psychology to the Science of Being, that traces the advent of black psychology and its evolution to the science of being. His work has been translated into Spanish, Portuguese, and French. Dr. Nobles have served as a visiting professor in Salvador de Bahia and Sao Paulo in Brazil, England, Ghana, West Africa, and Cape Town, South Africa. He currently serves as the chairperson of the ABP-SI, Pan-African Black Psychology Global Initiative, with members in Brazil, South Africa, Nigeria, Great Britain, Jamaica, Canada, Haiti, and Ghana. He served as the lead author of the African American Wellness Hub Complex Design Report 2017 for the Behavioral Healthcare Services in Alameda County, California, and is the project director for the Interim Virtual Hub Project. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the short version because the bio goes on to list all of the various publications. But I want to welcome to the Reading Circle microphones Dr. Wade W. Nobles. Dr. Nobles, again, good morning.
Good morning, and I'm glad to be with you.
And I'm glad to have you with me as well. As I shared with you a couple of minutes ago, Dr. Ayo Sakai has talked so highly about you and shared so much with me about you, and we were excited that you agreed to appear on this morning. So I tell you what, because I started in the bio reading about your mom and your dad and your grandparents, and I love the way you put that together to help people understand the barbarism of American slavery. You connected that to where your people started to where you are now in terms of the doctorate and every other thing that you've done. Where did that, I mean, where did all of this mindset begin? Did it begin as a child or you know, like, where did this mindset of like getting in the struggle like this start?
Well, you know, I think that two answers to that. I think that we are our ancestors returning to complete what we left incomplete in the past. So those ancestors that I've identified in my bio, I am them. And I've come back to complete what they left incomplete. That's one answer. The second answer is that as a child growing up in Boston, my mother worked as a chambermaid in an insane asylum in Boston. And she would come home every night. This was before there was television for your audience. She would come home every night and she would entertain my brother and I with stories about her workday. And she would always preface that she worked at a place where there were crazy white doctors and captive black patients. And so I think she imprinted me with the idea that there's something wrong, something skewed with this thing called psychology. And as I grew and studied and wanted to become majoring in psychology, I was always haunted by the recognition that there has to be something that's called psychology that works for black people.
As you were going through, were there many black folks studying psychology at that time?
In my undergrad, well, no. The answer is no, all the way through graduate school. I think I've always had one or two other black folk in my classes.
And see, that doesn't surprise me because even when I was coming through and I majored in business administration, most of the time I was the only African-American in the class. So the reason I asked the question is because now, okay, business administration is somewhat common. Psychology is not necessarily common. That's why I ask whether, and especially what the impetus was for you go in that direction, given that your mom would come home and tell you the story in terms of the patients versus the doctors. So it sounds like she did the inverse, said, well, it seemed like the doctors were crazy and the patients were not.
Yes, so what my mother only had a sixth grade education, so she wasn't really able to articulate the fact that there was a philosophical difference in worldview between those white doctors and the black patients. But I think she imprinted in me the seed of discord with what I was studying in school. And so when I started studying psychology, I looked around the classroom and I had these, you know, this crazy kind of observation. In fact, once when I was in graduate school, I took a course in anatomy, and the professor held up two brains, and he said something like, in spite of popular opinion, this shrunken brain is not a black brain. It is due to the formaldehyde. But the fact he gave the analogy that was tapping into a mindset of the class that there was something demeaning and diminishing about black folk was his entree to explain this anatomy.
Correct. That's absolutely right, because that's going back to Darwinism and all these other philosophies in terms of who was superior and who was inferior and brain size and all that kind of stuff. So the fact that he even had to open with that suggests that they already would have had that in their mind.
Absolutely.
So see, now we're gonna have a hot conversation this morning. I could tell right off the bat, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because right now I'm in graduate studies, I'm in doctoral studies in social justice and leadership. And just some of the assignments that we're already doing, one of them is reading of the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. And Dr. Nobles, I'm telling you now, that book is making me mad as I read it through. And even though I know everything that she's talking about and was aware of it, it's still making me mad just to see it in print. And just seeing that and reading that has made me more determined than ever. I said, I'm going to finish this degree and program for no other reason than from reading this book. But going back to what you were just saying about your mom having the sixth grade education, even at that point, she was still picking up on the systematic, that this stuff is systemic. This stuff is systematic. It's by design. She was picking up on that.
Absolutely. It's important to note that while our parents and grandparents may not have had formal education, that did not mean they were not intelligent. they were intelligent and insightful, and they understood what they were seeing, and they translated it into a language that they best could handle.
Absolutely, because see, again, you opened with about the ancestors. How important it is, particularly for us as African Americans or people of color or black and brown people, to recognize and acknowledge our ancestry.
It's absolutely critical. You see, the one thing that if I could summarize the impetus behind this journey of black psychology, it is that we've been walking in maintaining or majoring in a major paradigm shift. And one of the aspects of that paradigm shift is to rescue and reclaim our ancestry as a living being. You see, because too often Western mindset creates they honor the ancestors with statues and pictures and stories, but they don't see them as being connected to their living experience today. That's the paradigm shift. African people have always recognized that those who have gone into the realm of the invisible, those who are living in the invisible realm of the as dwellers of heaven, speak to us most often in dreams, but speak to us every single day and provide us with guidance. So I think it's important that we begin to rethink massively. African people begin to rethink our relationship with the invisible ones. They're not ghosts. They're not haints. They're not spooky things to be afraid of. They are living beings that can see us, even though most times we can't see them. Though sometimes they will manifest so you can see them and guide us in our everyday walk around lives.
I cannot agree with you because, see, I'm big into, that's why I know we're going to have a good time this morning, because I'm big into our ancestry. Matter of fact, I lead an all-boys school. It's a leadership school. And on Monday mornings, we have a libation ceremony every Monday morning where we do the ashe, ashe, ashe. We pour the water into the plant, and they get a chance to say whatever's on their heart. And if they want to talk about it, a lot of times they'll just talk about they were glad to be alive. They're thankful for their mother, their father, their grandmother. But it gives them an opportunity, and we explain the ritual. We explain where it came from.
That's very important.
Very important. And see, again, the ceremony...
Literally, it's rescuing. Like our ancestors have been locked up in a Western prison. And we have to break them out of that jail and rescue them, and then use that genius in our everyday walk-around lives.
No, it is. And it's,
As you said in your opening, that does not mean we just simply pray and burn a candle. It means you got to do the work.
Right. That's absolutely right. We got to put in the work, and we're going to go there shortly because, see, again, this conversation is going to be twofold. One, for those of you who are African American and listening, I need you to pick up on like things we need to do. And for those of you who might happen to be in the dominant group or Caucasian or white or what have you, this is not white bashing. We're not white bashing. I have to say this all the time. Being pro-black does not mean you're anti-white. Being the fact that we're trying to uplift us, is which we ought to do. Now, if you want to do that, as you could say the same thing. Being pro-white does not mean you're anti-black. That just has always been the case. But we try to make it very clear. This is not about bashing the white man. This is not about it. See, that's where we keep getting into this whole nonsense of the book bannings. We don't want our kids to read about slavery because they may be traumatized. Now, Dr. Nobles, I don't understand how kids learning and reading about it could be more traumatized than the kids and the families who lived it.
That's absolutely. See, that's part, again, that paradigm shift. The Western mindset. The Western mindset is fundamentally oppositionary. And so anytime you say something that's positive about blackness, in their mindset, that's saying something negative about whiteness because they're oppositional. So their worldview forces them to see and be afraid of telling a full human truth. And that's all we're doing is saying that you can't talk about humanity without talking about what the experience of being human has been for all people, especially black people.
Absolutely right. I mean, and see, again, first off, the fact that you're trying to ban books, to me, and I'm an educator, so to me, that's anti-education, the fact that you're trying to hold knowledge and information back.
There's no difference. This trek is ongoing and uninterrupted. It's no different than making it illegal for black people to learn to read.
Correct.
Literally, our ancestors for learning to read. Now, this banning of books is just simply the extension of that same pathology. It is pathological, but they don't see it as that because they don't understand how to be a member of the human family. I'm not talking about individual whites. I'm talking about the ideology of whiteness. That's the problem.
No, I could not agree with you more, because again, it was like last year, it was a couple of states, and I don't want to miss, but I know it was a couple of states in the central part of America or the West Coast going on. I think Utah was one, but I don't want to misquote. But I had heard and read that they had legalized being for parents to be able to have their kids opt out of Black History Month in February. And I was incensed. I was like, well, as a child and even now as an adult, we didn't get a chance to opt out of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. We didn't get a chance to opt out of that. How is it they get a chance to opt out of Black History Month?
And see, I think it's important for us to understand them, but the greater puzzle is for us to understand ourselves.
Bingo.
They don't say we should ban our children from understanding the Pilgrims and the Mayflower and those people who are escaping oppression coming to America. They don't say we should ban the fact that they literally annihilated the Native American population under the guise that they discovered America when there were people already here. So they're very selective about what should be included and what should be abandoned in the educational curriculum.
Absolutely, and you were so right when it says, because we were talking earlier before going on air about there's folks out there who are literally trying to turn the clock back, and exactly as you said in terms of this whole banning of books is turning the clock back to whenever it was illegal for African Americans to be able to read. That's exactly what it is. So we can parallel that, but if you look at everything that's going on, you will begin to see the parallels in terms of the clock being rolled back. And this is the thing. It's interesting because I was having this conversation the other day. For our white brothers and sisters, they want us to know everything about them, but they could care less about learning anything about us. And Naim Akbar, Dr. Akbar, has this whole thing. Again, he states it in the book that I'm not telling you that we're bashing white people. That's not the issue. He said, but everywhere, and you're talking about the Western and European, so forth and so forth, but everywhere you look, white folks can see white folk greatness. We need to get to the point, just as you were saying, where we as African Americans need to make sure we have black greatness surrounding us.
Absolutely. And see, for me, it is a question of the human family. You can't ask me to come to the table of humanity and deny the fact that I am part of that dinner party. You see, they want me to come to the table of humanity, be most of all banned from the dinner party, but when invited to the dinner party, I got to come in whiteface.
Correct. And that book I was just referencing was by Naim Akbar, Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery. So I'm quite sure you're probably familiar with that one because, again, Naim was dealing with psychology as well. That back to what you said a couple of minutes ago about a lot of our message that we're going to be talking about this morning is not for white folk, it's for us. It's what we need to do. And that's what Naim is saying there in terms of, all right, we need to make sure we surround ourselves in our homes, in our churches, in our schools, as far as have unashamedly, unapologetically surround ourselves with our greatness. Dr. Nobles, I can tell you now, if you were to walk into my school and walk into my office, you would see myself surrounded by black and people of color greatness. And it's by design. It's intentional. I don't care who come up in there. It's intentionally designed that way.
And we have to do that because when you look at the deeper meaning of understanding, what's called episteme, every single symbol and object in reality has a vibratory energy with meaning in it. And so the books you have, the pictures you have, the music you play, the way you dance, all that's vibratory energy that has understanding embedded in it.
Ooh, I got to chill when you said that. Because I know me, I know how I think, and I know how my home is set up with symbols and objects and artifacts. It's same in my office, and I got to chill when you said that every book, article has vibratory energy.
And see now, if I were asked to advise community organizers or builders and construction homes and communities that do all over the country now, I would suggest that they recognize that and simply say that every home should have a learning center space in it, like a library. Now, obviously, because of technology, we're not seeing a whole lot of books around anymore, but you can have clearly The IT stuff could be your learning library, but what you're programming in has to be important. And the second thing is that you have to look at the images in your home. Now, that doesn't mean that because I'm a black person, I can't say I happen to like Baroque furniture. If that's your individual choice, get you some Baroque on.
Correct.
That's okay. But the fact of the matter is that as an evolving being, I have to first ground myself in my own essence. It is only then will I express an appreciation for other things that are not imposed on me, but that is a choice. And our lives have been, everything that's non-African has been, everything that gives primacy to whiteness has been imposed on us.
Correct.
We didn't choose it. It's been imposed on us. And when you impose something on me, you oppress me and you take away my humanity.
No, that's absolutely right. See, again, now you've coined that exactly, imposed on. And see, that's what we're up against constantly. What's being imposed upon us versus what is our choice? Because see, again, reading this book cast, we had, and again, this is not like I didn't know it, but just seeing it written in the form that it's written in is just a really blatant, stark reminder of that how we had absolutely we weren't even considered a human, wasn't even considered a body. I mean, when you start talking about gynecological tools were created with experiments on black women with no anesthesia because we didn't feel as if they felt pain or their private parts didn't feel pain, we could do what we want with it. I mean, you just get mad.
You get mad, but you also should recognize how powerful are we.
Exactly.
You and I right now, you and me, are having an intelligent conversation, and all that atrocity was given to us. We should not be able to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time.
That's right.
But we stood down their oppression. We actually moved beyond their oppression. We looked at their inhumanity and recognized our own humanity. That's like an impossibility.
No, you're absolutely right. See, once again, because it's a strong people that could do that. Again, historically, if you look at folks that they tried the same thing with that didn't make it, that's why our people was the people that no matter what they put on us was still coming back up. We were popping back up like that old bouncy clown back in the 60s. No matter how many times you knock that little bouncy clown down, it would pop back up again. That's exactly the way we as black people are. And see, that's what's not one, because you said it earlier, you said it again very eloquently. The fact that you're celebrating blackness does not mean you're denigrating whiteness, but in their mind it does.
That's right. And there's a difference, there's sort of a contestation of worldviews. There's the African worldview that we've maintained intrinsically, internally, and then there's the European worldview that's been imposed on us. So they're constantly in contest. They're contested against each other. And whenever we were able to be ourselves, that African comes out. At parties, at picnics, at family reunions.
Yep.
Wherever we are allowed to be ourselves in an oppressive, toxic, and hostile environment, and there are points where that happens, the Africa comes out. In fact, I'd like to point out that Africa comes out all the time. Like sometimes we can't even keep it under, even though we're trying to keep our job.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
I said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. That's the Africa saying, I'm going to be human.
No, it's absolutely right. And it's so many various authors that I've read, and many of them have appeared on the show, and some I'm trying to get on the show. And I'm trying to think of Carolyn's, and I have to think, she's right now the president of the Dallas Mavericks, and she came out of AT&T. I was reading her book because she's a cancer survivor, but she gets into an experience where she was about to be promoted, and her name is Cynthia. I'll get her name in a minute. But she was about to be promoted, and they were telling her, you're going to have to do it with your hairstyle and your clothing, and we want to call you Cint and not Cynthia and all. And she had to just ultimately say, you know what, keep your job. If I have to do all of that in order for me to have that position, you can keep that. Now, her husband thought she was crazy, but she was like, no, I'm not going to be compromising like that.
Absolutely. And that's been our quest from the moment. You see, I like Bob Marley's refrain about fighting on arrival, fighting for survival. that we have never accepted our oppression wholeheartedly. Even though they could paint this picture of being a happy slave, picking cotton and singing songs, that's not our story. Our story has always been psychological, always been to resist, to refute, to take away all the things that they put against us. In fact, I don't know if you know this, and you can have people verify this, that there would be no public education in America if it wasn't for African people.
That's correct.
And now they're trying to reduce that because they know that the public education is the very thing that gave us ammunition to fight. So now they don't want us to fight, so they're going to take away the ammunition.
That is correct. Hence why they didn't want us to learn how to read. And so it's funny because I told my students Wednesday morning, because every Wednesday morning, and in my other schools I would do it every morning, but in this particular school on Wednesday morning is designated drop everything and read. And during that time period, for those 15 minutes, everybody, and I do mean everybody, Dr. Nobles, if you walked in my building during that time frame, you'd have to have your book and sit down and read it. Building dropped silent from like around 8:15 to 8:30. And every now and again, I get the boys clowning around. They won't read, or some of them can't read, and I get it. But I was sharing with them the other morning. I said, you know what? There's an old adage, an old cliche, an old saying that says if you ever want to hide anything from black people, put it in a book. Now, what's interesting about that, and this goes back to Naeem Akbar with the psychological, chains, the breaking of the psychological slavery chains or chains of slavery, is on the one hand, historically, and in our ancestry, we were killed for learning how to read. And somebody teaching us how to read could be killed. So now when I get kids that are like not wanting to read, I begin to wonder, okay, how much of this is being traced back to what we went through early on in slavery of reading being illegal?
Yes. And we have to explore those tracks because it's there. I believe it's there. But just as it was done to us, it can be undone.
Bingo.
And so I think we do have to recognize that we carry these retentions in our psyche. And if we don't recognize it, we think that's our normality. It's not our normality. It is like an infection. And then we got to create the antibodies to those infections.
How do you get the masses, and I don't know if you know the answer to that, but how do we get the masses of folks? Because this goes back to that do the work comment that we both made. How do we get the masses of African Americans? Because we have folks like you, we have some other folks, we have Barack Obama, we have Kamala Harris, we have some, but how do we get the masses?
See, I think that we all are recovering. We're like I said, recovering alcoholics. We are recovering Africans, and we're all recovering, and so we have to recognize and find people where they are. And in this new generation, the technology is so overwhelming, we got to figure out how to challenge that as a tool for us to use as well. For example, we should begin thinking, look, I don't see this example, I'm making an edict here, but I want to suggest or invite us to think about how do we rescue, reclaim, and reinvent being African using their technology.
Wow.
TikTok,
I like that.
TikTok, all the stuff that they use. But let's give some assignments. I don't just read, but also I want you to imagine being African.
Correct.
I want you to remember being African. And then put that in the medium that you love so well. All our children walking around with cell phones, TikTok, and typing stuff with each other. Have them spend a day using their iPhones to send a message about, I imagine what it is to be African.
Ooh, I like that. You know what? And because you know what, I'm going to steal that from you because when I go back in next week,
you're going to steal, but with your brother's your barber, you don't need a comb.
That's exactly right.
You don't need to steal, it's yours. But I think we need to look at this technology and see the fact that, like I'm sitting in my garage that I turned into a library, literally thousands of books. But my grandchildren are probably not going to have books like this like I do. They're not going to even cherish the hardcover book like I do. But they will cherish this technology. They're talking about, I'm going to get that I-12, 13, 14. That's their conversation. Well, take that I-16 and then do this. Rescue, reclaim, reinvent being African. Write a poem, do a hip-hop, or do a dance. All those things that our kids are doing, just insert in that being African.
And see, the reason I'm sick, because see, my boys, like I said, I have a single gender school. It's all male, and the population is predominantly Hispanic and African American. And those are the type messages that I push with them. And so the fact that you just gave me that idea there, and the light bulb, the aha moment just went off there. Yeah, next week I'm going to introduce that, and or either I'll give it a couple minutes to to sit with me to see how I really want to roll it out. But I love that concept because it starts at young ages. I constantly tell the kids, things have not always been the way they are now. You haven't just been able to walk up in the shoe store or the sneaker store and buy whatever Nikes you want. There was a time when you had to go in the back door, and same thing with the bus. There was a time when you couldn't just get on the bus. Like you would have to pay your fare, get off the bus, and walk back to the back of the bus. There was a time that, like we just said, if you were trying to even learn how to read, you could get killed for it. So trying to help them understand. So I love the fact that, that assignment. And that's an assignment, the kids can do. It's grades 3 to 8 with me. But that's an assignment they can do. But we've got to get folks talking about it. We got to get folks thinking about it, imagining about it.
Yes. You see, brother, we could simply give our children some hints. Let's say, here's our traditional value system. We believed in communality. We believed in agency. We believed in harmony. Now, I'm going to take just those three things: commonality, harmony, and now reinvent being African, an African community that is harmonious, that lives in commonality, that's interdependent. Go out and do something with that. Imagine what would your community look like if it was grounded in interdependence and not independent competition and destruction.
Why, yes, that is what do you think in terms of because now, because I remember years ago, even, when I was in my young days, I remember being woke or stay woke or, we need to wake up or whatever. But now this whole woke conversation or the word, now it's kind of I want to say nouveau riche, or I want to say now it's the fad. Now everybody talking about being woke. Even now, our white brothers and sisters, I think they done got scared of the term, but now even they're trying to use it. Talk to me a little bit about, your thoughts about being woke.
Well, see, they take, language is very important, and they take language that symbolically means something deeply to us and take it from us and give it a new connotation. And that's the problem. We are Bantu people. If you do the research, you'll see that 3/4 of all of Africa are Bantu. And all the Africans that were stolen and sent throughout the diaspora are Bantu people. But we never call ourselves Bantu. In fact, they divided up Africa with a crayon, and now we think that I'm Wolof or I'm a Yoruba or I'm Zulu. And we end up fighting. The Zulu fight the Wolof or whatever. No, we're all Bantu. And even in Africa, they made Bantu a diminutive term, a denigrating term. So Bantu Stephen Biko was really nigger Stephen Biko. So they made Bantu an insult. They're taking woke, that word that says we are conscious
Correct.
of what's going on around us, and made that some trivial idea of being, like you say, nouveau riche. It's cool to be woke, or it's stupid to be woke. Either one.
Exactly. That's right.
Either one was not what we were talking about. So language is important. I think as we work with young people, we got to give them the appreciation and the requirement for being masters of their language.
Absolutely. Words. Oof. You are right.
That's not just reading and writing.
That's right.
Master of language is understanding the deeper symbolic meaning of words and language. We suffered for a while when we were struggling with the N-word. And some of the old folks said, well, sometimes I mean that as a compliment, and white folk can't use it, even though I use it. So it got all confused in the dialogue, and so now people are banning that and saying there is some devastating, denigrating, demeaning aspects of that when they invented it. Because we didn't come here as no niggas.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And you are absolutely 100 zillion% correct. Because it was turned, like I always tell the boys, you need to understand, when we were being called that, we were not even considered a human. I still, Dr. Nobles, to this day don't understand how you can get 3/5 of a human being.
That you can. How you understand it is understand let me try to say this gently. You understand it by understanding the limitations of European, Euro-American thought. They're not, as I use the word, elegant and elaborate in their thinking. They are literally very narrow and very simplistic. And they'll create something that is unreal and make it real.
Correct. You know, it's like when you just said that, what came to my mind is, and again, folks, this is not bashing. It really is not, but it is enlightening. It is back to what we were just talking about, being conscious. Dr. Nobles, I don't think, because this is what happens. When I get in conversations like this with people, they tell me, oh, you think too deep. And my pushback on that is, well, you don't think deep enough. And so when we get into these conversations, it really is kind of like things that folks really never kind of considered with some of the commentary that they make. And where I'm going with that is, in many instances, because you speak well or you're articulate, people will associate that with speaking white. And I said, well, why does doing something proper or in its correct manner, why does it have to be associated with a race, period? I mean, because what are you saying whenever you say that as a black person? Are you saying...
I think, if I may, it's counterproductive
yes.
to try to counter their commentary on us.
Correct.
It is counterproductive. The fact of the matter is that when you look at it, if you take a moment to look at it, when they say you think too deep, in any other area, when you are swimming in the deep end of the pool, you are better.
That's correct.
And so, I want to be deep, because that being in the deep end of anything is the better place to be. But I don't want to, for me, it's counterproductive to try to counter what they're saying with explanation. I think we need to simply work with understanding ourselves for ourselves.
I know that's right. And see, that's where I think some of my frustration kicks in when I see it every day, because I'm working in an urban area, and it's like we're constantly, I mean, when I tell you, like, chopping down that tree with the axe, I mean, I'm swinging that axe every day, and intentionally so. And eventually, because we are planting the seeds, because I do have the folks and families and kids that come back, and they did get it. It's just that whenever you are hitting it with that axe, it can get frustrating in terms of what you just said. Us. Be about us. Look, develop yourself. Don't worry about what the white man is doing. Don't worry about what the Chinese man is doing. Don't worry about you. Worry about you making yourself better, getting as much knowledge as you can, understanding and becoming conscious. Like you said, imagine Africa, imagine reinventing, imagine restoring. So that's where we really need to go.
And unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, but we have to do both. We have to engage in decolonizing our minds, which means to challenge and critique what they're doing, decolonizing, but we at the same time affirm being African.
Correct.
There's two legs, decolonizing our minds and affirming being African. And that decolonizing, and in my book I talk about it as the Boko Jumbi, but in decolonizing mind, we have to challenge and critique their inadequacy and understanding full humanity. And affirming African being, we got to go deep into our own worldview and philosophy and pull out and make clear how we rescue thought that our ancestors brought forward to us, and was the very thought of being African that allowed us to, even though we engaged in many, in quote, slave revolts, but it was the thought of being human and being sacred that inspired the revolt.
That is correct. And that is the message, again, in my school that I constantly push with my boys is don't you ever let anyone allow or make you believe you are less than because of the color of your skin or where you're growing up or the fact that you're a male or whatever. Don't allow anybody to do that. Now, so a lot of what we do in terms of consciousness is trying to constantly embed that into their spirits. I tell them, and I say this, I don't care what nationality it is, and I have no problem with saying, I am one proud black man. I don't want to be anything else. I am unapologetically a proud black man. And so I have no problem saying that. And
you don't have to ask anyone else's permission to be that.
Correct.
Because when we start trying to be like them, that's asking permission to be human. No, we don't have to ask no one's permission to be our authentic self. We just got to work at being that authentic self.
That is correct. Because I heard you mention the word oppression earlier, and matter of fact, some of the studies that I'm doing is on oppression. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the impacts of oppression.
Well, and if I understand what you're saying, where you want to go, oppression is to minimize your ability to move,
correct,
to grow, to think. And so everything about our experience under the control of whiteness has been oppressive. Even though many of us have gone to white schools, go and get our PhD, graduated, and mastered all this stuff, it still was an oppressive experience because it minimized, it demeaned our ability to think freely and authentically about things. I should be able to think about anything, and I can't do that if the prism for thought is only European, is only a European prism. That's oppressive. My understanding of oppression is not just the billy club and the bat and the gun and the beatdown. All that's oppressive, but it really is a mental oppression. That's where Naim and I have paralleled each other, thinking for all our careers, we are more than best friends. We are brothers, and we think alike because we recognize that it is a mental war. It's mental warfare that we've been engaging in.
You're absolutely right. And the mental piece is 99% of it. I mean, it's the mental piece really is what, and see, folks know that. That goes back to my commentary about systematic. That goes back into like what we're dealing with is not on like a little pocket by pocket basis. You're dealing with something that was systematically put in place by design, and folks are fearful of losing power and status. So now that's why we're seeing and getting what we're getting. I shared with you earlier that I watched that debate on Wednesday night, and I sat there and I listened, and my thoughts was going to my head was, we're in trouble, because I don't know if the Democratic side is any better. But from what I was hearing from the Republican side, and the one leading the charge, the one leading out of all of them didn't even show up. He was like, you know what, I don't have to come. And they were all complaining about that.
You see, but the issue here is that the political system, and I'm straying away from my lane of expertise in terms of going to politics, but the political system has the illusion of oppositionary parties. The fact of the matter, all the political parties in this country have the primacy of whiteness at their core.
That's correct.
They don't call it that, but that's what they have, the primacy of whiteness. And they sort of make that universal. That's being a good American. No. We got to rethink this whole relationship about being human in the world. And even the stuff that's going on now, they just had this big United Nations had its 53rd whatever meeting recently in New York. All those countries coming into New York, talking about their coming together to provide peace in the world, being crippled by the fact that peace is defined by white people.
That is correct. And I keep hearing you reference the word being human. Because, see, if everyone would get to that human level, because I tell people all the time, and it's simplistic, but if you cut any of us, the blood is still red.
And if I may take it to the deep end of the water, if you look at that human question, we're not really human. We're not really human beings. We're spirit beings.
Correct.
Manifested as humans.
Correct.
And so the question is, how do we tap into that spirit being that has a invisible link between the visible and invisible realms of reality? My reality is not just material.
That is correct.
In your room right now, where you are talking, in my room right now, where I'm talking, our ancestors are right there with us right now. Energy fields, giving you thoughts, giving you impressions, giving you ideas you didn't know where it came from. It's the whispering of the invisible ones in your ear.
I know that's right, and I'm for me, I connect with you with that because, like I said, I'm so much like. And let me see, August 5th, we had a family reunion, and I generally, Dr. Nobles, I'm not one that will go to a lot of the family reunions, but this year we did it a little bit differently because all my father's siblings, all of them, there was 7 of them, and all 7 of them are now gone. And so this year, what they did was they put a picture of all 7 of them on the table, and they lined them up by birth order. And we did a libation ceremony there. We did a candle lighting ceremony there. We recognized, and all the kids of them were there. Their grandkids were there. So forth. But when I tell you it was powerful, brother, it was powerful. When I walked in that room and saw those 7 pictures, I could feel their spirit.
It was there. It was there. And they were glad because finally you invited them to the family dinner. We have to literally, that's what libation really is. It's an invitation to join the moment from the invisible realm.
I felt them. I really did. And people, like when you start talking like this, people think you're talking crazy. is not crazy. It's real. It's there. You can feel it. I felt those 7 people through their pictures, through, being connected to the various family members there. Their presence and ones before them was in that hall.
And you see, brother, the more we talk about it, like you're doing now, the more we talk about that, other folks say, yeah, we did it too, but we didn't talk about it. We didn't mention it to nobody. We're all doing it, but because of the imposition of domination, we think that we got to keep our stuff on the under. Keep it to ourselves. But everybody's doing it. All black folk are doing this stuff. It's only when we, particularly the, in quote, learned, talk about these things that people say, oh, yes, that's what we do. And you gave me license to be me.
Right. Absolutely. So now when you sent me your bio, you have a list, a long, distinguished list of publications and books. What are there any that are out there at a local bookstore or retail or whatever, or any that are for reading, or what's your most recent publication that's out there that folks can get a hold of?
I'm gonna give you two most recent books. One is called Saku, From Black Psychology to the Science of Being. For me, that's an important book because I try to track not only showing who are there, the nasty 9 European great thinkers that have contaminated the intellectual world, but also then show the development of black psychology from a black version of psychology to its authentic own science of being. That to me is an important conversation. The second one is the island of memes. And the island, all these are, at least they have been, bookstores are struggling out all over the place. But the other one is the island of memes, Haiti's unfinished revolution, where I did an analysis of the architects of the Haitian Revolution, Toussaint, Bookman, the leaders of the revolution, and did a psychological analysis of their consciousness. Because I wanted to show people how we engage in liberation. And some of us was like Toussaint thought he was French. Dessalines said, no, we're going to be black. So there was this internal conflict within our family about how we move forward in terms of freedom.
Right.
Those are important things for people to read and to talk about. And then obviously the book I wrote about rescuing and reclaiming African psychology. All my major books they're in public. They're used in academies, and they're in bookstores, particularly black bookstores that I had to send around the world. But the last two, I think I would invite people to I call them contributions. I would invite you to look at my contributions of thought. If they make sense to you, adopt them, expand on them. If they don't make sense to you, you might need to wait a while till you does make sense. Or you might do what John Henry Clark suggested. If it's not good for you, throw it into the ash can of history.
Well, I tell you what, see, just even as you were talking, and we're talking about this whole notion of, Western or European, or, how we've been indoctrinated, because I'm a musician in terms of I took piano lessons from 8 to 18. And the definition of classical music, as you would know, would always be Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, so forth and so on. But then as I got older and started reading different things, they said, well, that's just one view of classical. Because who's not to say that Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Miles Davis, who's not to say that's not classical?
It's not who's not to say it is we should say.
Yes.
We black folks say, here's our classics. Here's our classics. Now, you don't have no hold on what is classic and what is not classic.
And that's
we have a stream of classical music. We have a stream of intellectual trajectory that we need to understand. All those things we talk, and that ain't saying nothing about theirs ain't good.
Correct.
You got yours, and I'm proud you have it. Some of your stuff ain't so good, and I'm gonna call that out because I'm gonna call a rat a rat. But the other issue is that we have something to offer to the human family.
That is correct. And see, therein lies the issue, is that the same way you can be proud and have yours, the good and the not so good, is the same way everybody else ought to be able to be proud and to have their, and it needs to be included. It needs to be inclusive. In other words, worldwide classical music, and it's included of all. Not just one, not just Bach, and they're great. I mean, I've played Bach pieces, I've played Mozart pieces, I've played Beethoven pieces, but I've also played Duke Ellington pieces, and they're all. So it's not just one classical music.
You see, the issue again goes back to the primacy of whiteness. The fact, man, how can you say you're the world champion the champion of the world. You ain't fought everybody in the world. You ain't competed with everybody in the world. How do you say that this is the world class? These are world classes. You ain't listened to the Aborigines playing their music in the Himalayas somewhere. So you can't do that. So, and that's the problem, that when we start talking about truth, then it exposes their lies.
Correct.
The stuff comes about. We say, no, we talk about truth here. When we talk about truth, and I have to point out that what you said ain't quite true.
Therein lies, and we've gone full circle.
The primacy of whiteness.
Yes.
The primacy of whiteness is the driving engine of the problems of the world today. The primacy of whiteness. We say, no, you can't. It ain't no prime. There's a human collective, and everybody should. Every identifiable group has something to contribute.
Correct. And that's therein to me. You refuse, like you said. I love the way you point. I'm going to talk to you again in terms of my doctoral studies, but I love the way you put that in terms of the primacy of whiteness, because therein lies the issue. You're not allowing anyone else in, or you haven't allowed anybody else, and you want everybody else to think that you're the only one, the dominant one. Your way is the way, and nobody else's is the way. And that's been, passed down through the years. I mean, folks got really, really upset with Obama whenever he said it's in the DNA. But truth of the matter is.
Absolutely. And we just got to be honest, tell the truth.
And you're right about the truth, because see, now we've come full circle back to the book bannings again, and it's a good time because we're down to our hour. But back to what you just said, the lies, and now we're trying to do the truth, and it's causing an issue to the point wherein those of you that are in legislative or in political power are flat-foot. Again, unapologetically. I mean, Ron DeSantis down there in Florida he said it the other night during the debate, has absolutely no issue at all with saying, no, you will not teach this.
And you challenge them. Ultimately, it gets down to the question of just raw, ugly power. I'm in charge. I'm going to make the decision. That's really not a democracy. That's a dictatorship.
Correct.
But they're now saying, no, we're gonna make decisions about your body in terms of abortions, etc. We're gonna make decisions about what you read. We're gonna make a decision about where you sit. We're gonna make a decision about what door you can come into. All that's going back to what this country prided itself on growing out of, evolving to be a better place.
Absolutely. So with that said, we're down to our. At this point, I'm gonna have you back, and I'm gonna get your phone numbers and everything. Dr. Sakai was absolutely right.
Talking with each other all the time.
Yeah, we go.
I would invite you to look at my recent book called Psychologists from Black Psychology.
I will,
because I think that has it's a contribution. It's not a complete story. It's a contribution, but it might be helpful.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know if it's on Amazon or not, but if it's not, there's a bookstore down in Newark, New Jersey that I go to, Source of Knowledge. I don't know if Source of Knowledge has it or not. If not, I'll have them ordered, or either I'll order it, but I'm going to get that one because, again, it's going to help me in my studies. And what's that?
Black bookstores, I have it in black bookstores. I don't mind being on Amazon, but I much more prefer my work to be in black bookstores throughout the country.
Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, I most likely then Source of Knowledge has it. If not, they can order it, and I'll just take a ride down there. I know the owner, so I'll just take a ride down there and have him order it for me. But certainly at this point, I'm going to give you an opportunity to promote. The only thing, Dr. Nobles, you can't say is a dollar amount, but anything you want for how folks get in touch with you, your work, your latest book, whatever book you want them to get, this is the opportunity. I'm going to shut the mic off, and then you have the opportunity to promote you and your work. Like I said, I'm definitely going to stay in touch with you.
I think that when we Google my name, I'm not hiding. I'm not hiding. all the stuff that I have is available to audience, and I would invite them to look at it again. It's my contribution, and has filtered through all the intellectual trajectory of black thought that I've come in contact with. So it ain't me. It is an intellectual trajectory that I'm on, that I belong to a tradition of black thinkers.
See, now you start off just with those two words. You start off a whole nother hour we could talk, but I can't, and we won't. But you just said black thinkers, and believe it or not, folks, there are black thinkers out there.
We have a long intellectual trajectory. It's like a moving train. And we got, it's like we said, you got to get on board.
That's right. And I tell you what, just as an FYI for you, I have an African name as well. It's Ajamu Alade Abanibi. So it's Ajamu Alade Abanibi. So I am Marc Medley, but I am also Ajamu Alade Abanibi.
And you know that's our tradition as well. We take on names that represent the new added nature of who we are. On a basketball, because we call them nicknames, but they weren't really nicknames.
Right.
They were taking on names that gave attribution to a new attribute of who you are.
No, that's absolutely, because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was originally Lou Alcindor, and
right.
he took on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
That's right, and that's our intellectual trajectory. We got to look at ourselves with African eyes.
Absolutely. So, yes, listening audience, if you ever hear me say, or either you see Ajamu Alade Abanibi, that's me. But Dr. Nobles, I am going to definitely get you back on here, and because we can need to continue this conversation, and I'll get your numbers and I'll email you or what have you, and because like I said, we definitely need to partner up, because I'm gonna be doing some writing and research. As a matter of fact, this is my thing, and I'm gonna let it go so we can change over. But I'm gonna be researching. I know it's been done before, but I want to see if I can find a gap in there about our assessment questions in terms of, are they really biased for black children? Are these standardized assessment questions, are they biased?
Yes. If they have been done, but they need to be redone with African eyes.
Good point. There you go. Yes. From African eyes. That's right.
That might be your job. That might be your assignment.
There you go. So I thank you so much, because you were calling out of Texas, correct?
Yes.
All right. So I know you're in Central Time Zone. It's an hour behind.
You had me get up at 5 o'clock this morning to be on time with you.
I know that's right, but I tell you what, oh man, was it worth it?
Oh yes. I think that the more we talk out loud in front of our own people, the better we are.
I know that's right. So I tell you what, we
hiding from nobody.
I know that's right. And YouTube channel in the archives, I will send you the links. And Dr. Nobles, you can do whatever you want with it whenever you get them.
You can send me the link. I'd appreciate it, because the links I have as the inheritance of my grandchildren. I'm not going to leave them money, but I'll leave them all the knowledge I got.
I know that's right. So I will get those to you. It'll be on the YouTube channel as well as in the MP3, and you are free to share them or archive them however you want.
Thank you, brother. I enjoyed having the conversation.
Same here, even though it's early in the morning. It was a good conversation early in the morning. I know that's right.
It was a good wake-up call.
Yes. All right, man. Have a wonderfully blessed week, month, day, year. Like, may the ancestors continue to be with us. May God be with us. And I will definitely be in touch with you.
Ashe.
All right. Ashe, ashe, ashe. That's right. Take care. All right. Bye now.